How's it going, folks? Stephen Mullen here, doing another best ball draft for y'all. By now, most of you know I am a best ball specific blogger for Big Dogs Fantasy. Pretty much concentrating just on best ball, although I am starting to do some work in the DFS field as well. So, in the description for this article, you're going to find a link, and it's to my first DFS article, which is a first look at the Millionaire Maker slate for DraftKings for week one, looking at pricings and game stacks and stuff like that I like for DFS week one. So, looking like we're picking 9 here. This page has been freezing a lot when I start the draft, so I'm just going to go ahead and restart it right away. Make sure we can get back in there. All right, we're back in. We're unfrozen, and this draft is rolling. So, as I said, I've been doing this best ball blog for Big Dogs. Their draft guide is now available, so you should go onto the site and check that out. The site's right here, bigdogsfantasy.com, draft guide, also where all the articles are. My best ball articles are mixed in with all of the regular season-long articles on there. Should probably talk to Nick about maybe having the articles by section, like broken up into season-long, best ball, DFS, etc., etc. So pick 9, what am I really hoping for? Obviously, you occasionally get Davante Adams down there. You don't really get Hopkins in there. Have like 1 or 2 times, but that doesn't happen too often. So probably going to be looking at trying to take Travis Kelce at the 9th pick. If he's off the board, I might go to Odell Beckham because I'm actually trying to raise my ownership on Odell Beckham, and it's kind of hard to get him. Like, he goes randomly anywhere from the end of round 1 to early round 2. So if Adams is there, we're taking Adams. Since Julio went, I'm not going to take Beckham over Travis Kelce. So I'm either taking Adams or Travis Kelce at the 1-9. Taking Kelce's nice because, you just lock up your tight end. You don't have to reach for any tight ends or anything like that. So this guy's timing out. He will be taking Adams. We're going to grab Kelce and be on our way. So I generally never take 2 elite tight ends. This is my 190th draft, and I've done it 1 time. And the only time I ever took 2 elite tight ends, I picked 12th. I took Travis Kelce, and then in round 4, the 3-4 turn, Ertz was still on the board, and someone was trying to get like insane value on Ertz, and I just he was just better than the other players on the board, so I was just like, all right, I guess I'll take Ertz, and he can certainly play in the flex spot quite often, as he'll have good weeks, and something happens to Kelce or whatever, still have elite tight end plus a huge gap between my tight ends and anybody else's. But I do not recommend that strategy. I think that was just a very small case that would happen. What we're hoping here right now is, you cannot get all 3 Chiefs anymore. I'm going to take Chubb here. He's my favorite of these running backs. You don't get penalized in best ball as much as you do in regular drafts for drafting Chubb. So in regular drafts, he's kind of behind some of those guys because when Hunt comes back, it's going to be fantasy playoffs that he'll be there, and that's kind of annoying to have Chubb with Hunt during the fantasy playoffs. But in this, there is no fantasy playoffs. So the massive weeks that Chubb will have to start the season won't be hurt as much when Kareem Hunt comes on, because those won't be playoff weeks. They won't be premium weeks for you like they are in season long. So the draft guide has in-depth write-ups on all the rookies from Nick and Noah, really breaking down like all the players that are just entering the league, which is fantastic when you're trying to pick which ones of those guys you want. Also has write-ups from a real doctor examining all the injuries, not only the injuries that there were when the draft guide first came out, but they're being updated as the off season goes on. So if any new injuries come up and you're like, man, I wish I had the insight of a real doctor on what's going on with this, you will be able to find that in the draft guide. So, it's going to be constantly updated. So a couple things player picking wise to notice in this draft. Zeke Elliott still went 4th. That's still where I would take him. And Todd Gurley went at the end of round 1. He's a guy that I'm actually starting to want to get a little bit more of because there are reports of him looking healthy, but I'm not willing to take him here. Like, I have 3% Gurley now. I would maybe like to get up to 4 or 5%, which would actually mean I'd have to draft him quite a bit. But I'm not willing to draft him until about the 2.6, 2.7, and he still falls there quite a bit. Damian Williams is back from his injury. I would not overreact to that and start taking him yet. He came back from a hamstring injury awfully fast, and his coach was pressuring him to come back, kind of threatening his spot a bit, saying, like, dude, if this guy's not here, we're just going to roll with who we've got. So I think that he may have panicked a bit and be coming back too early, and, this hamstring could get aggravated again. It's one of those injuries, so I would actually rather... I was pretty comfortable drafting him, where he was falling sometimes into round 3 with the hamstring injury. Now that he's back, I'm actually less interested in him because my last draft, he went, that's a 2-3, which I am absolutely not taking him there right now. And I noticed Mahomes is just creeping up and up. So like I was saying, it's like really hard to get the 3 Chiefs now. To get Kelsey in round 1, Hill in round 2, and Mahomes in round 3. So I have generally had that plan, and I've been able to pull it off a decent amount, but not recently. The good thing about that plan is if you get stuck with just, Kelsey as your round 1 pick and Tyreek Hill as your round 2 pick, it's not like that's bad or anything. It's still fantastic, so that's cool. That's the other one I wanted to talk about was Kerryon Johnson at the 2.9. I'm not there yet. Not taking Kerryon Johnson over Mike Evans. Who else went behind him? I would actually consider taking him over Damian Williams right now and all these other running backs. So maybe the only guy that I absolutely wouldn't take him over that he got taken over is Mike Evans. So, I was thinking Kerryon Johnson was only in round 3 for me, but I really haven't picked up, in the first few spots. So I would actually have taken Kerryon. I would take him over every single one of these people. So I guess he is a late round 2 for me. It just hasn't come up much, but I would not take him over Mike Evans. Oof. We're getting a 3.9 Melvin Gordon. Wow. Huh. There's just... I could take a Devonta Freeman because I have, sub... Yeah, that's... I just can't. I have to take Melvin Gordon at the spot. That's unfortunate. I'm trying not to, raise my Melvin Gordon ownership at all, but... So basically I am a full fade on Melvin Gordon unless it's the most extreme circumstances. So there was a draft recently where I got Alvin Kamara at pick 5, and then Melvin Gordon was there in round 3, and I just felt like I had to take him. So that situation's still very bad. He could still get, stuck out for a long time. But at the 3.9, this is where you want to start getting your ownership percentages. A lot of people, started taking him when the news first broke of his holdout. People were still grabbing him with the 1.8, the 1.9, the 1.10, the 1.12. I waited and waited and waited, and I faded him all there. I faded him all through when he was in round 2. Now that it's in round 3, I'm even still fading him at the top of round 3. But once he gets into the mid to late round 3, that's where I think you have to take your gambles, especially if you're going to have 200 or 300 teams like I'm going to have. It's too ridiculous value to, if something were to happen where he does come back and is available week 1, you pretty much just win. Derrick Henry, I'm not too interested in. He supposedly has a walking boot off now. Still not practicing. Has a calf strain. Quite worrisome. I'm either going to take, Diggs or Josh Jacobs. So I like Josh Jacobs a lot less than David Montgomery, but I have, like 25, almost 25% David Montgomery, and I have very, very little Josh Jacobs. I think 6 or 7%, maybe 5, somewhere between 5 and 7%. So you can go ahead and take Jacobs. We have no wide receivers right now, but it doesn't really worry me too much. I just take the best value on the board in the first few rounds, and if it's wide receivers or running backs, and it is what it is. Now that we're at 3 running backs, though, I will. Well, it's especially nice because one of our running backs is Melvin Gordon, so being a little bit running back heavy is not the worst thing for us. But yeah, I'm not overly concerned about the fact that we don't have a wide receiver yet. I will be more apt to take a wide receiver next round than any other position, that's for sure. But if I get smacked in the face with some sort of value at running back, I could still consider it. Wouldn't make me happy, though. So, this is the Pat Mahomes team. Barkley, Mahomes, and Keenan Allen. Not bad, not bad. 3-1 is too early for me on Mahomes. It's not that I don't think he's worth that value. I think that that's about where his value starts to come in. Definitely in round 3, I think he's a value. Like, he's worth it, but I don't want, like, a crazy, crazy amount of Mahomes in rounds 3 and 4. And I find I get him enough in round 4. The only time I'm looking for Mahomes in round 3, basically, is if I already have Tyreek Hill or Kelsey. If I have Hill or Kelsey, I will take Mahomes in round 3. If not, then I won't take Mahomes until round 4. And there's enough of these drafts where like people just, it's a bunch of people that draft quarterback late and he falls there. Wow, 412 for Henry. That could really work out for this guy. If Henry ends up being like A-okay, ready to roll, that is a steal that late. Like, I wouldn't take Henry over Jacobs or Montgomery right now, but I definitely would take him over White. I would take him over Lindsay. The injury concerns me, but not that much. Andrew Luck's injury, like, super concerns me right now. Of all the injuries out there that aren't, a known quantity, like AJ Green's injury is a known quantity. Of all the ones out there that are not a known quantity, Andrew Luck's injury is by far the most worrisome to me. So he has a calf strain. He's been out for over a month now, and they're not even sure when he's going to be able to practice. Like, that doesn't sound normal. So a calf strain should normally keep you at 2 to 3 weeks. It's been over a month, and they have no clue when he's coming back. I don't know if maybe there's some Achilles damage, and they don't really want to talk about it, or what's going on with that, but it seems really strange. Somebody's going to get a really good value on Golladay here. I definitely would take Golladay over Mike Williams. I would take Golladay over Lockett. So I feel like whoever gets him is going to be super lucky. We're going to be looking at taking our first wide receiver. There's 4 on the board I have interest in. Be kind of ashamed to have to pass Carson or Sony, but I think that's the predicament we put ourselves in by going so heavy on RBs. This Ridley injury is worrying me quite a bit. I'm kind of happy that DJ Moore fell here. He was like the one of these 3 people I wanted the most. I'm not as high. I like Tyler Boyd a lot, but I think that the offense may just be poop. So kind of off him and Mixon as much as I used to be on them. I recently did a Dynasty startup with some of the big dogs people. Noah's in it, and Scott the editor is in it, and then some of the listeners and me are all in it. And look at my team. It was a super flex league, so I ended up trying to fade quarterback until round 7 and 8 and then grab 2, and that failed absolutely miserably because all the drafts I had looked at before that, you were still able to get like Phillip Rivers and guys like that. Occasionally, some of the ones I saw, you could get a Cousins still in those rounds, and people just went absolutely bananas for quarterbacks in this league. They were just off the board incredibly fast. So I ended up having to trade for quarterbacks, which is kind of a horrific position to put yourself in. I got Jimmy Garoppolo for like a pretty reasonable deal. I traded my second round pick next year and an eighth, and then a later pick in this year's draft. Hold on a sec, I gotta make my pick here. It's between Robbie Anderson and Christian Kirk. My Robbie Anderson ownership is pretty low. So is my Allen Robinson, but I like Robbie Anderson quite a bit more. So we're going to go there. Great value falling to these guys that are able to get Ingram and Hunter Henry in round 6. So anyway, I had to trade for quarterbacks in this league, the Superflex League, so that was pretty brutal. So I ended up trading like Nick Foles, a second round pick, and a later round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. Nick Foles, my second round 2020 rookie pick. And then I also traded like basically Mark Andrews, who I had drafted, my first round pick in 2020, and a later round pick for Winston. So I was kind of able to fix my quarterbacks there. I still have Mariota. I have the Titans quarterbacks locked up. I got Drew Lock in a trade. So I made a couple of trades since this. I traded Lamar Miller, who I don't know how I ended up taking Lamar Miller, and Traquan Smith, who I also don't know how I ended up taking because I don't think either of them are any good for this year. So I traded those two as a package for Mark Ingram, who's older, but I do have Justice Hill on my team, so I kind of like the fact that, I've got that locked down. Ingram's 29. At least he doesn't have as much wear and tear on him as, the typical running back his age would have. I really like him for this season, but, it's obviously in Dynasty, I'm not too high on Mark Ingram. So because I made all these trades and gave away my rookie picks for next year to get my quarterbacks, into a situation I like Winston's 25, Garoppolo's 27, Mariota's 25. Mariota might play himself out. I might trade him at some point this year. We'll see. I definitely won't be trading him until after week 4. So week 4 is Garoppolo's bye week, and week 7 is Winston's, but I can actually afford to trade him before week 7 because the guy I'm playing week 7 has Newton and Big Ben. So, and then Flacco is the only other quarterback, so it's kind of a bye week for me. He also has Curtis Samuel and Odell back on that week, so he's basically he's not even going to try to win that week, I don't think. He's just going to punt that week. Really wanted Alshon Jeffrey there. That's a shame. 7-9. Sammy Watkins or Marvin Jones. I'm going to take Sammy Watkins, not because I want to, but just because I own so little Sammy Watkins. So late round 7, early round 8, I'm just forced to take him a bit to get some ownership on him. Because my ownership on him is very low. I hate Sammy Watkins. He has me blocked on Twitter for reasons I cannot share on this video without getting censored. I had some fantasy team names with Sammy Watkins that were not too nice that I shared with him. So, yeah, the big trade I ended up making was my third round pick, Amari Cooper. I traded for N'Keal Harry, Deebo Samuel, and Drew Lock, basically to buy back my picks for next year that I traded. I get these 3 guys a year sooner than my picks would be for next year. So that's nice. But there's some pretty hard decisions to make in that league. So my recommendation, the whole point of me showing you my team, was to tell you, make sure you get your quarterbacks earlier than round 7, 8 if you were in a Superflex league. You need to at least have one in round 5, 6. That's if you're fading like I planned to do, because I think that they get, overdrafted, obviously, especially in 4-point touchdown. They're actually not that good, but you need 3 of them. And it's hard to get 3 of them in a 12-team league, obviously. I sort of have 4 at the moment, but I'm kind of safely have 3, right? So I've got Jimmy G, Winston, and then I have, Darrell Henderson starting to fall. I like to see that. Anyway, I have Jimmy G. Winston. I've got the Titans quarterback locked down for this season, which it could end up that neither one's a starter next year. Who knows? I think Mariota probably will be. And then I also have Locke, who at some point will be a starter. Like he's going to get a shot in Denver before they decide on taking somebody else. Wow, this is I've been getting like skanked and skanked and skanked in these drafts, and pretty happy to get a round 8 Miles Sanders here. I absolutely love round 8 Marvin Jones too, but I own a ton of Marvin Jones, and I own like hardly any Miles Sanders because I pretty much only take Sanders in round 7 or later. And for quite a while, he was going in round 6, and people have started taking him in like round 6 area again after a couple of his training camp videos. So we have not taken a quarterback yet. Cam Newton is on our radar as a quarterback because we have DJ Moore. I would like to get a Sam Darnold share here because I have Robbie Anderson. Every single time I plan to get a Sam Darnold share, he goes like 3 rounds ahead of his ADP, and I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. And then every time I don't want, Sam Darnold, he's there in round 17. So it's been pretty fun. Needless to say, he's one of the guys that I do not have very high ownership on because every time I want him, he's not there, and whenever I don't want him, he's smacking me in the face, telling me to pick him when I have no correlations for him. If I have no correlations for Darnold, I'm just not that interested. So we definitely have our running back situation is like scary, but has a huge amount of upside, right? So we've got like Melvin Gordon, who can be out right away. We've got 2 rookies who God knows how much their roles are going to be to start the year. Everybody's all in on Josh Jacobs. The reason why I have like I think I'm at 5 or 6%. I might even be down to 4. But the reason why I'm so low on him is just I don't think he's as good as people think, and I also think his role could be smaller than people think. Let's see if I can find that out. Checking the best, so you can look up your ownership percentages right on the app or the site. So yeah, Josh Jacobs, I'm at 6%, so pretty comfy with that. Around 9 Kalen Ballage, that's too early for me. I have a million Kalen Ballages in round 15 from back when these drafts first started. So we are closed out of Cam Newton, so that won't be a thing. Kelsey and Watkins, obviously their quarterback is off the Gus Edwards in round 9. Sorry. I'm going to need a minute. I'm sorry. What just happened? So Sam Darnold's the only quarterback we have any correlation to hanging out on our team. I'm probably not going to take Mark Andrews in this draft unless he falls another round, as much as I like him, because I think right now the best value at that position is Hawkinson. Hawkinson around 13, 14 is amazing value. I have Hawkinson as my number 12 tight end. My tight end for best ball article will be out next week. Royce Freeman off the board. Do I want to take another shot at RB and grab Ronald Jones here? I don't love Ronald Jones, but this is like right in the spot where I really like to take him. Could wait around and take Peyton Barber. Yeah, let's go Deshaun Jackson, which even if we time out, that's who we're getting, so no big deal. That is not who's number 1 on the board, so I don't know why it just took Drew Brees for us. Okay, that's kind of a mess. Draft app is definitely not supposed to take... it's not supposed to jump down. Well, I was going to take Russell Wilson the next round, and then try and pair him with people. So I guess now that we've gotten stuck with Drew Brees, we could go for like a later Traquan Smith, who I really don't like this year, or Ted Ginn. That probably won't happen. It's unfortunate. If Ronald Jones is still here when we pick in the 10th round, I'm probably going to take him. I think we can work things out with Breeze to make this not such a mess. Nice. Okay. I don't love Ronald Jones, but the upside's still there, and it's round 10. I feel like we're getting him at a very good value. Somewhere around round 13, I'm going to look to get Hawkinson to pair with Travis Kelce and close out our tight ends. I could end up with just like Breeze and Stafford. I end up with Stafford a ton because I'm so high on Hawkinson. So a lot of times if I have no correlations going on my team, I'll just look to grab those two, like round 13 and 15. 13 for Hawkinson, 14 or 15 for Stafford. And I'm able to pull that off quite often. Devin Singletary at 10-8. He's a guy I've been drafting almost every draft, but I don't take him until around 12. He was there quite a bit. Damian Harris I'm cooling off on a bit, but he doesn't seem to be dropping an ADP, which is kind of annoying. So I still do like him, but I'd kind of like him to get Damian Harris around later in round 11, and that's just not really a thing that happens anymore. So I would definitely like to end up with Darnold. I am now looking to have some sort of correlation with Drew Brees. Since I dislike Traquan Smith so much, this would my ownership on him must be like hilariously low. This might be like, a perfect time for this. So I have like really low Brees too. So this might end up actually working out kind of good for us. Yeah, 4% Brees, and I have 4% Traquan Smith. So I actually would like to pair those two quite a bit in this draft, just because, if Brees is going to hit his absolute best possible season, then Smith's going to actually have to get his head out of his ass and not suck. And having as low ownership on him as I do, this mistake could end up being, a nice thing just to boost those percentages up a little bit. They're both guys I'd like to, own more like 5% or 6% of than 3%. They're both currently at 4%, so. I only need to draft one more running back, so I'd like to take a different position here. I don't know Austin Hooper. Just going to take Traquan here. This is, around early, I think, almost. But I just don't like Hooper and Burton that much. That's who I would take if I wasn't taking Traquan. I'd rather have Traquan and Hawkinson than Hooper or Burton and the wide receiver I would get then. If I didn't have Breeze, I wouldn't make that move. But now that we've stuck ourselves with Breeze, I actually do like making that move. Might even look to grab Ted Ginn as one of our last two picks. Even though Ginn and Traquan counteract each other a bit, one of them will probably have a decent week, and anytime either of them has a big week, it'll be a big week for Breeze. So that could be a week that we spike. So another thing about Breeze that you don't notice is when you think of Drew Brees, you don't really think of this massive ceiling, low floor type of dude, right? You think of him more as a steady player, but he has been more of the high ceiling, low floor guy. I still don't really want to take a tight end. I'm gonna grab Trubisky. Another person I don't have that ownership on. That high ownership on. This draft's been very strange. Like, Hooper and Trey Burton are usually never on the board at this point, so it's kind of like curveball after curveball here. I also am never in the position where I've got 5 running backs usually at this point. Let's go take a look at the team. So we got Breeze and Trubisky, which is fine. We've got Chubb, Gordon, Jacobs, Sanders, Ronald Jones. I mean, that's like, you're definitely something's going to go wrong here, but definitely something's going to go right here. And if 2 things go right in this group, you are golden. Our wide receiver group is like, meh. It's pretty so-so. And then we have Kelsey. We're hoping to get, either one of Goddard or Hawkinson. Burton off the board. Still have Sam Darnold in mind as my last QB I would like to take. I don't think we have to take that this round. Every time I try to wait on him, he gets taken by somebody. It's rough. So I don't hate this team, and I don't love this team. Basically, this team all hinges on Melvin Gordon, which is like what's going to happen to you every time you take Melvin Gordon, even late in the third. Like, obviously, if he doesn't play until week 10, team's probably going to suck. If he even comes back by week 4, your team's probably amazing. Like, he doesn't have to be there week 1 for this team to be in good shape. I just need to hit on, one of the other guys having a decent week 1. Strange thing in the Raiders camp is they've had Josh Jacobs returning punts. I don't know what's going on with that. Why? If you're planning on that guy being your number 1 running back, what the hell are you doing? Just, cool it on that. It's going to be interesting if Goddard and Hawkinson are both on the board when we pick. Goddard definitely has that league-winning type upside. Because if something were to happen to Zach Ertz, he's going to be an absolute pimp. And regardless of that fact, he's going to get quite a bit of work either way. I could get incredibly greedy and try to get Hawkinson around 14. That doesn't seem like the best plan. There's still quite a few running backs I wouldn't mind having as my last running back. All right, I'm going to go Goddard this time over Hawkinson because I've been taking so much Hawkinson lately. Just take that league-winning upside in round 13. Almost timed out again. That would have been twice in one draft. That would have been pretty brutal. All right, next round we have to at least start considering grabbing Darnold. He could go before our pick. That definitely happens to me, as I said a lot. I usually get a little greedy with him. If Justice Hill is still on the board when we pick, that's going to be rough. Passing around 14 Justice Hill is not something I'm in the market of doing. I'm pretty willing to gamble and lose on our boy Darnold yet again if Justice Hill is there when we make this pick. This is strange. I'm rooting for Justice Hill to be taken and rooting for Justice Hill not to be taken. Yeah. All right. Monstrous upside. Round 14. Unpassable. We can't be that concerned about our stack with Sam Darnold. Just have to take Justice Hill there. So if we get skanked on Darnold, what I'm going to try to do is grab Foles as my third quarterback and then take DJ Chark in the last round or assorted other Jaguars wide receiver. But my second favorite Jaguars wide receiver for this year after Westbrook is Chark. I think him being a second-round pick, they have to give him a chance. He's got the speed, the size, all that stuff going for him. Does that necessarily mean he'll be amazing? No, but he's got a shot. So I'm interested in Darnold or Foles as my next pick. If both of them are gone, then it gets a little dicey. Obviously, if Stafford was still there and Darnold and Foles were gone, then we'd have to take Stafford. Because I have Stafford a tier ahead of Foles. I have Darnold and Stafford, I believe, in the same tier. I can't remember if I moved Darnold down to tier 3 or tier 4 or not. Darnold might be in my tier 4 now. If no quarterbacks go, then we could take another risk, but I don't think we'll be doing that. Really like Deshaun and Marquise Brown and Saria. Marquise Brown shouldn't be available where he is in these drafts. He's so good. Seems like their other rookie wide receiver, Miles Boykin, is having a hell of a preseason in camp too, so he's a guy to keep an eye on. He was in my very first Deep Sleepers article, I don't know, a month and a half ago when I first started writing articles. That was my second one, or third one. And yeah, I liked Boykin quite a bit. And I hope somebody takes Stafford. Although that might lead someone else to take Darnold. That might lead to me being sad. So our running back is done. Our tight end is done. We're probably taking a quarterback here, and that's done. And then we're going to have to hammer out 3 wide receivers. Quite often now, like, it wasn't the case when I first started these, but now that I have more experience, I'm pretty comfortable leaving wide receiver to be the position I'm taking, 3 of at the end, or 2 in a running back, something like that. Sometimes 2 in a quarterback, just because like wide receiver is so deep. So that's kind of good for us. Stafford went. Now we don't have to feel bad about taking Darnold if Darnold is even available when we pick. If he is, he's our pick. If not, we're going to go with Marquise Brown. All right, we'll grab Darnold. Go with our Robbie Anderson. We could consider, an Enunwa or Crowder later, but that's very unlikely for us to be picking. Like the guys that Crowder is around up here, I'm just not too interested in them. With how much risk we already have built into this team with Melvin Gordon and then rookie running backs and all this going on, I'm not interested in Josh Gordon, but certain types of roster constructions where you're like pretty comfortable with your team and your risk levels, then I like taking Josh Gordon quite a bit. Who are we hoping for? We don't even need quarterbacks on here anymore. So we do have the option of taking Jamison Crowder here. I'm not going to do it. I like Deshaun Hamilton a lot more. And I think that would be a reach just to make your stack a 3-stack. If we're super interested in that, we could take a Enunwa later. But I like Deshaun Hamilton a lot more than I like Crowder. There goes Boykin, round 16. So I used to be the only person that ever even drafted Boykin, but now he goes in pretty much every draft. Another guy I really like that you can get super late is Zay Jones. He finished last season with 9, 9, 6, 9, and 9 targets in his last 5 games, 5 touchdowns. There he goes. So his end of the season was like amazing. Allen was out for a while, so like their offense really didn't get to where it wanted to be until then, and people are super nervous about, his target share and all these things because they brought in John Brown and Cole Beasley. I think John Brown is basically like, I don't see any difference between what he's going to do this year as far as targets and role as to what Bob Foster was doing at the end of the year last year when Zay Jones went bananas. And then, sure, there's Cole Beasley there, but he's pretty much like dust at this point. He's not really an NFL player anymore, I don't think. And they also don't really have any tight ends that they're going to be trying to force feed targets to. So they have a low volume type of wide receiver one, even though I would say Zay Jones is the one, but John Brown is a low volume type of guy. And then no one else on that team scares me really. Bob Foster does because he has a talent, but they have no interest in playing Bob Foster. It seems like he's running with the twos. He is too much of a similar player to John Brown. They don't want another guy. It looks like they don't anyway from the way training camp's going that does the exact same things as John Brown. So it looks like they just have two of that guy, even though maybe Bob Foster could be more. But I just don't think he's a threat to take Zay Jones' spot unless Zay Jones gets hurt. Mike Gesicki, do not draft this guy at all. He's the 28th tight end on that team's depth chart. He is off your draft boards at this point. This coaching staff despises Mike Gesicki just like the last coaching staff seemed to, and same with Kenyon Drake. So everyone that's hammered on Adam Gase, myself included, because I don't think he's a good coach, but a lot of people were like, oh, he doesn't know how to use personnel. He refuses to use Kenyon Drake. He refuses to use Mike Gesicki. Well, it seems like this coaching staff also thinks that those guys are not any good. So maybe they just aren't that good. Or maybe they're problems off the field. I don't really know. But this coaching staff does not seem that interested in them. Guys on the board for us, really interested in Albert Wilson, this best ball type of format because he scores those long touchdowns. Right now, Bob Foster, I'm just not drafting, unfortunately. I have a lot of him because I was pretty high on him back when, the hype was building. I looked at his game films from last season and I was like, yep, I'm into it. But now that the coaching staff doesn't seem to want to use him at all, I'm out of it. So I would kind of like to get Albert Wilson here and then one of Ginn or Anun. Ooh, Anunwa's got an injury now too. So maybe I'll take that back. But definitely taking Albert Wilson here. Happy about that. Let's see what's going on with Anunwa. To test. Ooh, groin injury. Okay, so he's off the board. We're not going to take him until something is found out about that. David Moore is a guy I'm kind of interested in. Taylor Gabriel's a guy I have very low ownership on. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's a reasonable last round best ball pick. And since we have Trubisky in this draft, maybe that's the way we go. Gabriel is a dude I might have 1% of. Just not that high on him, but he is a big play type of guy here and there. And if I didn't have Trubisky, I probably just wouldn't be interested at all. But since I do, I wouldn't mind getting a second or third share. I definitely have less than 5 shares of him. It might be 2 or 3, but in 190 drafts. But yeah, this one wouldn't be terrible. It'd be a little tough to take him over Adam Humphries, especially with AJ Brown dealing with his own injury. So don't think that we'll take him over Humphries. Nah, we're going to go Humphries. I just think he's the best value on the board by a lot. I think that's better than our attempt to get another little stack piece. Funny, he went the next pick. So let's look at our team, and we'll look at the roster constructions of some other teams and get out of here. So we got Breeze, Trubisky, and Sam Darnold, B-. We messed up and timed out on that Breeze pick. But, at least it got us an ownership percentage on both Traquan and Breeze, who are guys I probably needed to get a little bit more ownership on. Running back, we have Chubb, Melvin Gordon, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Ronald Jones, and Justice Hill. So, this running back group is it can't even be graded because it's either an A++, or like a C. Who knows? Everything depends on what goes on with Melvin Gordon, and then like every single one of these running backs that we have as depth is either ceiling. Their ceilings are all incredibly high, and their floors are all incredibly low. Jacobs, Sanders, Jones, Justice Hill. We could have went for like just someone safer just to get in there, but the way the draft fell, these guys were the values at the picks. Like I would have preferred to have someone safer than Justice Hill as my last dude, but in round 14, Justice Hill is just like too good to pass. So our goal is really to try to come in first place and get that 5x cash anyway. So I think that like our running back group, definitely can do that. Definitely has absolute A+ potential. Wide receivers, TJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Sammy Watkins, Traquan Smith, Deshaun Hamilton, Albert Wilson, Adam Humphries. Again, a lot of high risk, high reward guys. I would probably say it's B-. Don't really like having DJ Moore as my number one, but that's the way things worked out. And Kelsey and Goddard isn't going to be an A. So pretty much anytime you get Kelsey and you pair them with a non-super injury risk guy, like if it was Kelsey and someone like Jordan Reed or Delaney Walker or Greg Olsen, that's the only time I won't give you an A if you have Kelsey. So Kelsey and any reasonable tight end that's not like an injury-riddled person, you're getting an A on your tight end. So I would say B-. I guess for now, if I had to give the running back group a rating, I would say B+. So B-, B+, B-, A. B- on wide receivers, A on tight ends. Let's take a look at some roster constructions. So this roster construction is a mess. This is just really bad. So your winning percentage with 4 tight ends or 4 quarterbacks on winning the league last season was at 2.5%, I think, was the best of the two. So it's pretty disastrous if you end up with 4 tight ends or 4 quarterbacks. Those are some good quarterbacks to have in your 3 quarterback group. So this guy has 4 running backs, and 2 of them are Kareem Hunt and Chris Thompson, and 1 is Todd Gurley. This team is bad. Like Witten is only playing 25% of the snaps this year, supposedly. Who knows if that'll actually happen? Maybe they need him more than that, and he plays more. This team also has Golden Tate and Josh Gordon. Whew. This team is stink. This team here doesn't have optimal roster construction, Scott. If one of these wide receivers was a quarterback or tight end, they'd be fine. Again, this is the old 3-6-6-3. This was what people used to think was the best roster construction the last offseason when nobody had actually went and broken down the numbers, and we found out that was in fact not the case. That 7 wide receivers, 6 running backs is a massive, massive win percentage boost for you. So 100% of the time you want this roster construction. You want 7, 6, and then 3 of one of these 2 spots and 2 of the other. 8 wide receivers, again, non-optimal. This guy has 7 running backs. I mean, depends. So the problem with this, even though like you feel like you get the extra value at running back, is if you only have, say you have 3 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks, right? The only people you're worried about getting hurt then are your 2 quarterbacks. So if one goes down, you're stuck with 1, which really sucks. But it's what you have to do to get your value at wide receiver to get you up to 7. You have to pick 2 of one of these spots. But by picking 2 at both of these spots, you go from really being worried about 2 guys getting hurt to really being worried about 4 guys getting hurt. So that's a 100% increase on your injury liability, going from 2 to 4. Let's just look at his team real quick. Like, see, it just doesn't need to have Hunter Renfrow, but I mean, I guess Renfrow's fine. He is a guy I don't mind around 18 here and there. I likely would have liked to take 1 less running back if I was this person. Cool. So his 2 quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, who's like definitely going to be an injury risk with the way he runs, and then Tom Brady, who's going to probably have some up and down weeks. At least he has Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews combo. Mark Andrews, Austin Hooper as his tight end. So I think that his roster construction is weak. Maybe the players chosen are fine. So another person going the old 3-6-6-3. This is like probably the second best roster construction to the correct one, which is 6 running backs, 7 wide receivers. But I think it's a pretty significant. You lose almost like 7 wide receivers won at a rate 17% better than 6 wide receivers did. And 8 wide receivers was only 5% stronger than 6 wide receivers. And then running back, 6 running backs won at a rate 22% higher than any other number of running backs. So those are huge numbers. So yeah, 6 running backs was 22% more effective than any other amount of running backs, and 7 wide receivers was 17% higher than any other number of wide receivers. So this team has good roster construction. This team is the old 3-6-6-3. This team is down a running back, which it shouldn't be, to have this extra wide receiver, which we've seen doesn't help. This guy has 1 tight end, so he's just flat out taking a 0 at minimum of 1 week. And if something happens to Hunter Henry, then... So, you know how I was telling you how bad 4 of the position was? Like 4 quarterbacks and 4 tight ends. One at the best rate of the 2 was 2.5%. Only owning 1 quarterback or only owning 1 tight end was actually sub 2%. So you really don't ever want to do that. All right, that's enough of me gabbing about this stuff. Good luck in your drafts, and I'll see you next video. In the description, there'll be a link to the DFS article if you want to check that out. There's also a DFS video on my channel if you want to check that out, looking at week 1. There'll be a link to my Twitter if you want to share rosters, ask questions, anything like that. Do that on the Twitter. And there'll be a link to the Instagram, which is just going to be a bunch of best ball rosters if you want to take a look at what some correctly stacked rosters with good roster construction actually look like. All right, folks, have a good one.